an incredible story this morning about San Diego State and revelations from San Diego State athletic director J.D. Wicker, who in an interview with the San Diego Union Tribune said that he turned down an invitation from the Big 12. The Big 12 wanted us, quoting J.D. Wicker, the Big 12 wanted us to come in at basically a half share with no opportunity to make any money in a new TV deal that they just started. Now, there was no follow-up because journalism. But here is my direct question for J.D. Wicker. You're currently making a maximum of $3.4 million in the Mountain West Conference. The new TV deal in the Big 12, and let's just say and let's believe J.D. Wicker on his face, they wanted us to come in at basically a half share with no opportunity to make any money in the new TV deal that they just started. So you're making $3.4 million in the Mountain West deal. The Big 12 TV deal at a baseline is $31.7 million. That is the minimum. So if you take 50% of 31, you're $15.5 million. That $12 million raise didn't interest you. And then I'd also remind you that there's revenue distribution last year before the new TV deal started. On average, most Big 12 teams got $33 million on average. And you're not interested in that. It is a shocking indictment on the lack of leadership that exists at San Diego State, and whether it is the other revelations in this story that J.D. Wicker saying that they went back to the Pac-12, that they wanted to join the Pac-12 instead of the Big 12, which now we know was nothing short of the Titanic and a terrible decision for J.D. Wicker to publicly state that he turned down an invitation from the Big 12 that would have netted him a minimum of $15 million instead of the 3.4 that you're making in the Mountain West. Jake, it screams of somebody that has no idea who they are and where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the description of being tone deaf is perfectly placed here. I don't understand how, J.D. Wicker just has no appreciation for all the opportunities that a power conference would provide you as an institution. I mean, the obvious discrepancy between the money is there, of course. But when I think about San Diego State, the thing that really stands out is the opportunities that not only you would have in football, but that you would have in basketball. I mean, you're talking about a school that just went in and had a great run in the tournament, 2 years ago now? And I just look at it and I say, man, like, do you have no thought to say, like, well, if we're in a power conference and, we make that same run in the tournament, I would think that our share would be bigger than if we made that same run in the Mountain West. Like, do you have no thought to that? Do you have no thought to, hey, like being in the Big 12, linking up with schools that are, on stronger footing in football than us would probably benefit us in the long term? Sure. Are there more costs being a power school than being a Mountain West school? Sure. Yeah. You have other, just costs of running and doing business that may be a bit higher. But certainly those costs would not eat up this huge pay raise that you would have seen of $12 million. I can't believe that J.D. Wicker, apparently doesn't appreciate that. And to be fair, I'm guessing the way he wants to frame this publicly is probably slightly different than maybe what he feels personally. But the reality of the situation is your track record's not helping your perception here. I mean, what you did with the Pac-12 thing and, all jokes aside with the pro rata we deserve stuff and like just the way you handled that situation is just not good enough. And ultimately, it does look bad that the Pac-12 folded and that's the conference you wanted to join. And you said no to this to try to join that conference. And now you're stuck in the Mountain West. And again, I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over again. If you're not a power school right now, if you're a G5 school and you don't win a lot in football, you can't afford to make these kind of mistakes. Like, I appreciate San Diego State is doing great in basketball, and that's awesome. But you can't be mediocre on the football field and turn down a $12 million per year raise and the
At a minimum.
and the opportunity to join a power conference.
And I'm going to put the Big 12 TV deal up here in a minute so you can see it. But everybody not named Boise State is making $3.4 million in TV money in the Mountain West. This is the TV deal in the Big 12. New deal kicks in. It is $31.7 million. You look at that per school average, $22 million from the deal expiring this season, $31.7 million, 25-26 through 30-31. And yes, I agree with you. Basketball plays a huge part in this for San Diego State. The top 4 football picks each season, 6 of the top 8 picks, 8 of the top 12 picks, 12 of the top 20 picks belong to ESPN. So San Diego State football, if you were worth anything, would have been on ESPN most weeks. FS1, 26 football games per season. Football championship game, if you'd have made it that far, ESPN. Fox Sports 1, the new deal gives Fox Sports rights to the Big 12 basketball game for the first time. No specifics. It essentially is a 70-30 split. So you'd have had your basketball team, which has been significantly better at San Diego State, a championship caliber basketball program the last several years. They'd have been playing in the biggest games against the best teams in the best basketball conference in the Big 12. Yet you spurned that because you thought somehow you were going to get more. Is this the $50 million pro rata we deserve conversation? Because that's what this feels like.
It sure looks like it.
And we can have the conversation. If the Big 12 and the Pac-12 had both survived. Okay, but they didn't. They didn't. The Pac-12, as we reported, for the 18 months leading up to, and then the 2 months of tumult before the announcement was made, about a year ago, you were never in business there. And then to disrespect, because that's what I think this is.
Mm-hmm.
I think this comment from J.D. Wicker is disrespectful to the Big 12. You're dead. Until J.D. Wicker's not the athletic director, you are dead to the Big 12, in my opinion.
Look at that last line. We would have been sitting at the bottom of the league looking up with no opportunity to do anything.
Well, what opportunity, JD, do you have now? And we've talked about this repeatedly, that J.D. Wicker has zero accountability. And I remind you again, this is what happens when there's zero accountability from media. Nobody will hold his feet to the fire on this. There was no follow-up question asked on this. And I'm stunned by it. And the 10 of you who sent me this article, I appreciate that. Because it's shocking to me that that comment was just left hanging there. You can't do that. J.D. Wicker damaged, in my opinion, J.D. Wicker damaged San Diego State athletics, and I don't believe there's a way to undo that damage.
Yeah, outside of him not being the athletic director anymore, outside of him not running that department anymore.
Well, where are you going to go now? Even if you had aspirations of getting out of the Mountain West and being a P4 university, who's going to give you that spot? And who is going to give you a spot in a better situation than the Big 12 offered you? Because now you're not getting that spot in the Big 12. Now, do you really believe that you can call up Greg Sankey and say, hey, it's J.D. Wicker, let's do this? Do you really think you can call Tony Petitti and be like, hey, it's J.D. Wicker, we're going to need you to send us an invitation? I'm sorry, J.D. who? Do you really think that you can call the ACC?
Jim's got bigger fish to fry, bro.
And I'm asking for a friend. Do you really think they're giving you a better deal than SMU got, which was take no TV revenue? No, they're not. No, they're not. And I know that we have railed on J.D. Wicker, but this is exactly why we've railed on J.D. Wicker.
He's earned it. I mean, he's earned it. And this is the thing about, when we talk about leadership in college athletics, like when we have these conversations about, any of the other commissioners or, leadership at schools, like this is what I'm talking about. The leadership at your school has to be good for you to be able to get to where you want to go. Like you could be this dominant football program at the G5 level. You could like Boise State, right? Like Boise State would never come out and say something like this. Notice since their head coach ran his mouth before the season, you haven't heard word one out of Boise State. What have you heard? Well, that running back against Oregon, or that running back here, like that's what you're hearing out of Boise State land. And I think it's smart business. Like you have to appreciate where you are and where you're trying to go. And not only do I not believe that JD Wicker has no idea who they are. He doesn't know where San Diego State fits into the picture.
I totally agree.
He has no idea. And then in addition to that, to make it worse, I'm not sure that JD Wicker knows where they want to go, or even knows what his options are, or what that would look like. And so the question that needs to be asked of JD Wicker at some point is, hey, like, what are you trying to do with San Diego State? What's the next thing? Because I can tell you this, it's all fine and dandy that you spent all that money on Snapdragon. That's great. And I love that you're being proactive with the stadium situation. But if you're not leveling up after that, what good is it? Like, that's the biggest thing.
SMU gave away, what, $200 million in TV revenue to get into a P4. I, frankly, don't think I would have done that deal. But obviously, I'd rather have San Diego State than SMU. But now you've lost all your leverage. And if you look at the Big 12 and you look at the standing of the Big 12, especially in basketball, it's a dominant brand. And at San Diego State right now, you don't have a football program. You can't compete in football, or at least you haven't shown the intestinal fortitude and the want or desire or even the ability to compete in football. And so we're looking at you as a basketball school, and you said no. You said no to a 300% upgrade in your revenue. You said no to $15.5 million, or a 5 times increase in your revenue. You said no, so that you could go and court the Pac-12, which tells me you were being sold. That's what it tells me. You were being sold. And if you go backward, remember the $50 million, we're getting $50 million per school per season. Remember that conversation? You were being sold and you bought. And now you're bankrupt because of it.
Back to the envelope calculations.
There's just no way to recover from this.
No, it's bad business. It's bad decision making. And I don't want to hear any, we'll get to the comments in a minute, but I don't want to hear people saying today, oh, well, there was no way to know that the Pac-12 was going to, go south and disappear. You're telling me that if us on this show had a pretty good idea that the Pac-12 was in trouble, that people
in the know
don't know? Come
that
on,
people
dude.
in the know were telling us that it was over? And you're telling me J.D. Wicker and Adela De La Torre at San Diego State didn't know? That's crazy to me.
If they didn't know, they should be fired for that on its own.
It's crazy to me. And I what are your options now? You have no options.
Yeah,
now.
I think
you're stuck.
Your options now climb the food chain at San Diego State. If I'm, again, and this is we had some of this dynamic at Michigan when the whole scandal was going down. Like, we've seen this kind of conversation pop up before, where it's like, hey, now we've graduated from, well, your football team's kind of, mid. They're not really doing too much, but basketball is great. Like, let's just work on that. Now we've graduated to, hey, like, leadership at the, like, chancellors and stuff have to start saying, all right, athletics is not quite going the way we need it to go. what are we going to do about this? Because that's where it goes from here. You have to show value in what you're bringing to an athletic department.
And again, as a basketball school, which San Diego State is right now, you had a chance to join the preeminent basketball league in the country. You had a chance to earn a larger share of your basketball units. I mean, like, it was all in front of you. And I understand why the Pac-12 was attractive to San Diego State. Travel cost, infrastructure cost, wear and tear on the student athlete. Totally understand it. But it just tells me that you don't, J.D. Wicker and President Adela De La Torre did not do their homework, did not do their due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
And in a time and in an era where your conference affiliation in basketball is critical if you are a basketball school. Whereas, in my opinion, football, the conference affiliation is, as we tick through these NIL lawsuits, and now there's even more, the conference affiliation is today really important. 5 years from now, I don't know that we'll have conference affiliations.
Mm-hmm.
But in basketball, conference affiliations aren't going anywhere. The NCAA tournament, is we told you, is going to expand. The money is going to grow.
Unless you're San Diego State and you're not going to a power conference.
So you're not going to get more access to better games. You're not going to get more access to better TV money, more tournament shares, more branding opportunities.
But JD,
it's wild.
I'm just asking for a friend. But you think you're going to sit at the bottom of the conference with no opportunity to improve? Yeah,
I am.
Why
I am
would you
stunned.
say that? Like how? That last line to me. Like, I agree, the move to try to get into the Pac-12 over the Big-12 is crazy. I don't know who in their right mind with that type of information makes that decision.
But if all things had been level, okay, I understand it. But the Pac-12 was the Hindenburg. It was the.
You could see it coming.
It was going down.
Yeah.
And then your president's out here talking about the pro rata you deserve. I'm not. I am stunned by it, and I don't know. Maybe this is hyperbole or too much at this point. But when do we get people who truly understand now why the Big 12 needed Brett Yormark and what a good job he has done building that conference? And this whole truck stop, flyover, lot lizard conversation about the Big 12 is ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
If you can't see, and I understand that some people struggle to see the water from the beach. Totally understand that. If you can't understand the prominence and really maybe the other word is the dominance that has created the prominence, the work together.
Yeah, it's wordplay and stuff.
Of the Big 12 basketball brand. And I understand that 9 out of 10 people think football is the only thing that matters. Those of us in the business world understand that basketball is so critically important to the success of athletic departments, especially in the P4. And when you have a chance to get out of a G5 and get to a P4, you take that chance. You take that chance every single day. And that you were given an opportunity and you said no, and then you ran your mouth more. And now you're at some point, because mark my words, at some point San Diego State's going to come hat in hand and be like, hey, we need some help here, Brett. And if you thought 50% wasn't enough, what do you think they're going to offer you?
Quarter share. Because what are they going to say? And I'm being serious. I'm not even being a red ass. They're going to say, the Big 12, I would guess, is going to say, hey, well, the offer before was a half share, and that would have brought you guys about 15 a year or so. But based on the position you're in and based on where we're going, we don't need you. We'd love to have your basketball program, but it's definitely not a need. I mean, if you don't need UConn, you definitely don't need San Diego State. And so what are they going to say? Well, you're making 3.5 now. How's about 7 mil, 8 mil a year?
And
let's start there.
The UConn conversation is incredibly pertinent today. Because when you think about the fact that UConn wants to join the Big 12, and the Big 12 said no, because we don't want to pay for your football program, it tells you that UConn understands in a historic basketball league, which the Big East is, it's one of the best basketball leagues we've ever seen, that UConn wants to join the Big 12. That Gonzaga is entertaining the idea of joining the Big 12. And I think we are simply in a position where there's no trigger to do it now today.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we're doing here is waiting for the ACC to come apart. And I don't believe that San Diego State's one of those G5 schools that's like, oh yeah, we just need to wait for the ACC because that's where our opportunity lies. There is no opportunity for San Diego State if the ACC melts down. Is there opportunity for Washington State and Oregon State? Yeah, there is. Is there opportunity for UConn and Gonzaga? Yeah, there is. Is there opportunity for San Diego State? There's not, because nobody's clamoring to get San Diego State into their league.
It's disrespectful what you said. Like I understand if administrators have a difference of opinion, but it's not even the highlighted portion for me. It's that last line where you say something like, hey, we're going to be sitting. So you're saying you're going to be a bad team in the Big 12 with no opportunity to improve. So not only does that tell me that you don't appreciate the opportunities, off the court or field that the Big 12 provides you, in the media, with exposure, the events that you would be a part of. Like, there's so much of that other stuff where you can cultivate business and build relationships and bring in more money to your athletic program.
Yeah.
You don't appreciate those things. You don't appreciate the fact that, they built this mecca of a basketball tournament in Kansas City. You don't appreciate the forward thinking vision of the Big 12. And that's why I say, like, it's not only that, in my opinion, you look a bit foolish here. It's that what you said is disrespectful.
And you're waiting. Again, I think you're very much like Washington State and Oregon State, except you don't have a football program. And I think when you look at Washington State and Oregon State waiting on the ACC to melt down, that's where you better. I actually think the best move for San Diego State is throw your chips all in and try to rebuild some form of a Pac-12. I think that is your best option by far. If you can somehow bring together, maybe you get Gonzaga as a full share member. Now, obviously, they don't physically have a football program, which is going to make it tough. But maybe you somehow, some way, try to poach a couple of teams from the Mountain West. Maybe you somehow, some way, try to put together 8 to 10 teams in a reimagined Pac-12 that gives you football revenue and keeps you as a P4, P5.
Yeah, what happened to that point? What happened to the merger with the Mountain West and rekindling the Pac-12? Because you guys remember that too, right? Like all the people telling us that we didn't know anything and that we don't have sources and we don't know what the hell we're talking about. Oh, the Mountain West and the Pac-2 are gonna come together and reform the Pac-12. Well, that agreement didn't get renewed. And by the way, San Diego State, what did Washington State's football program just do this past weekend? Oh, that's right. They beat Texas Tech, a Power 4 program. Even as much as Texas Tech is sputtering, still a Power 4 program.
Well, and then look at, because you'd have to think if the Pac-12 comes back to life, Stanford and Cal.
Right.
Cal just beat Auburn at Auburn. They went to Jordan-Hare and won. What is San Diego State doing in football?
Nothing.
And if I am JD Wicker, I'm not doing interviews with the San Diego Union Tribune. I'm building a football program. And I am doing everything I can do to win football games, because as strong as the basketball department is, you've got to figure out a way to be relevant in football, because that's what's going to make you attractive. And right now, I just don't think you're that attractive.
Yeah, basketball will never supersede football. That's the problem.
It's and that's exactly the point. You look at UConn. Basketball at the highest level, one of the best programs in the country, couldn't keep your football program relevant, which is why you're not in the Big 12. So what makes you think San Diego State basketball, that's not even close to the caliber of a program of UConn, is going to float a football program that has not been good? It just doesn't, the math doesn't add up. It's never added up. And I feel bad for San Diegans. I feel bad for Aztec alums, because you're good people. You're good fans. You deserve better than that.
And you have a great market to sell off of, dude. It's
I
San
just
Diego, bro.
I am
Like-
amazed by it. I'm amazed by it. And I look at, like, you look at this last round of Big 12 expansion, BYU, national champions. Like, they have a strong football program, a strong basketball department. You look at UCF, unquestioned. You look at Houston, arguably one of the best basketball programs, if not the best program in the country, behind UConn.
But Houston's a great example. Look at what Houston did.
But look at Cincinnati. Why is Cincinnati in the Big 12? Because you have the Huggins years and you have Brian Kelly, and you have a football program that competed for a national championship. A small market like Cincinnati is more valuable than a market like San Diego, because they've won. And they've won at the highest levels.
They've shown you it's possible.
And Houston hired Willie Fritz because they're committed to winning football games. As good as Calvin and that basketball program is, they're committed to winning football games.
But I think I completely agree with that. And my point with Houston is that you fired Dana because it wasn't good enough. And the reason it's not good enough is because you know that you can't jump into this conference and just be terrible on the football field for 10 years. That's not going to work. And again, this is not to go way off the rails, but this is kind of why, we talk about Joey so much and Tortilla Lamb. This is why we talk about these different head coaches, because it's like, dude, you can't have a run where you don't sniff the college football playoff for like 10 years at a time. That doesn't work in the modern
It does
landscape.
not work.
You have to be like, and again, this is my point about, like, when we're talking about Notre Dame or any of these other consistent players in the college football playoff. Notre Dame's season this year is over in embarrassing fashion, but that's not going to impact them because they've been in the playoff regularly. They're getting the shares consistently. Like, they're on this higher level. But San Diego State or Houston or Texas Tech haven't sniffed the college football playoff yet. And frankly, San Diego State, it can't even really talk about it at this point. It's not even in their realm. So the idea, once again, that JD Wicker thinks it's okay to say things like this is just incredible.
In a great sports town.
Yeah. Like,
with a football community that's thirsty because the Chargers play in LA, and you ripped down Jack Murphy, the Murph, and built Snapdragon, and you had all kinds of momentum, and you just didn't win games. And you look at MLS coming to San Diego, you look at the Padres and the unbelievable support and the unbelievable influx of investment into that franchise.
And Petco's a gem, dude.
And you look, but that's my point. It's a great sports town. They ran the Spanos family out of San Diego because the Spanos family tried to hold them hostage. San Diego State could easily have filled that gap and just has not been competitive.
And so when I saw this, I was just like, damn, dude, we needed to talk about this today, because I just think it's so much more than, hey, again, in my opinion, JD Wicker said something stupid here, said something he shouldn't have said. It's so much more than that when you look at, whether it's the marketplace, whether it's the college football playoff, whether it's, the basketball tournament and your place in that and the money you're not going to make now. Like, it is in saying this after what went down with UConn, because I'm telling you, JD Wicker knows more than any of us or any of you listening about that UConn situation. He has information. He has access. People in the know have the information. So again, you saw what went down. You know what the Big 12 thought of that, and you still said, I just can't fathom it, bro. I can't imagine.
I can't believe they said no to it. I just can't. It just does not compute at all.
So if you're a San Diego State alum, because I know we have a bunch of you here, or a fan, a supporter, what do you make of this? I mean,
Yeah.
are you in the fire Wicker camp, or like what's the reaction? Because I don't know that, he's obviously not going to get fired tomorrow, but I think that it's starting to kind of creep in a little bit. That seat's getting a little warm when you consistently say stuff like this.
If we learned anything out of the debate last night, say less.
Yeah.
JD Wicker talking about how he turned down a 5-time increase in revenue from the Big 12 is not the most politically savvy move I've ever seen. Like, your constituents are not going to be happy about that, Mr. Wicker.
Who told you that was a good idea?
I don't know.
Damn.
Steve Stepanek, good morning. Everyone knew the Pac-12 was imploding. Everyone knew. We were telling you that for 18 months before it happened. I mean, the minute that USC and UCLA absolutely sucker punched you, it was over. You lost all your market share.
Well, and I remember talking about when George Kliavkoff did that interview with Wilner back in the day, 2 years ago. I remember the day after he did that interview, we did the show, and we were talking about like, hey, if you project forward, this was before, Oregon and Washington and all these schools had moved. We were talking about the fact that, hey, like SC, right? SC's moving along. If UCLA goes, then that opens the door. Grant of rights isn't going to get renewed. Like we were talking about it, which means that if we can put those dots together, folks, again, in those circles, it's inexcusable.
But what the thing that I'll just go back to what we said, and it's all on the channel. Please go back and look. TV industry sources had told us repeatedly, San Diego State does not replace USC or UCLA. They don't. And they would not have, which is why when you had a handshake agreement to add San Diego State, it didn't get you a TV deal done because it didn't replace the Southern California market, which now belongs to the Big Ten. And USC, I would remind you, seems to be at the top of the headlines in the Big Ten at the moment.
Yeah, it's working out nicely
after a couple of games, but San Diego State does not replace Southern California. Christopher Shannon, Baylor, Houston, Kansas is no basketball. Who's saying there's no basketball? The Big 12, inarguably, is the best basketball brand in the country. And you look at what they're doing in Kansas City. You look at what they're doing with Rucker Park, and who knows what happens with Mexico eventually. You look at the influx of cash and branding, the fact that Brett Yormark created the blueprint for splitting basketball and football apart at the conference level and making a basketball unit for business and a football unit for business, for branding, a commercial director for football, a commercial director for basketball, the revenue flow and the revenue source. It was absolutely brilliant business. And you again, look at what he's created in Kansas City for the Big 12 championship. It's excellent. And I think there's some question about why he's doing Big 12 Media Day in Las Vegas, and I hate that idea. But as basketball goes, there's no questioning the prominence of this league. There's no questioning the fact that you have added Arizona State, Utah, obviously Colorado, who was much better in basketball last year, Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF, who are all elite athletic departments. And you're leveraging those resources now.
And by the way, all the haters are going to say, oh, well, Monty, they had a terrible year in the tournament. I don't disagree. The Big 12 disappointed in the tournament this past year. But
certainly.
But what you can't disagree with is that with those brands in your conference, you're going to get that opportunity every single year. So over the course of a 10-year window, yeah, sure, year one, yeah, you didn't perform well. But if 6 out of 10 years, 7 out of 10 years, the national champion would come from the Big 12, I think that's pretty good.
Do you think Mark Harlan at Utah wants to win basketball games?
Yeah, I do.
Because his women's program is dominant. And what's the other thing that Brett Yormark has prioritized? Women's sports. And whether that be stick and ball, softball, whether that be basketball. Brett Yormark, there's no question. And there's always going to be idiots out there who are like, oh, the Big 12's not a basketball league and nobody can. Okay. You live and die on that hill, dude. Domer Wop.
Hey, Domer.
I remember Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million, but who knew? Man, is that a great example. Former Kodak CEO online too. Stepanek, I think they thought they were too good for the Big 12. I think that's exactly what
I think
they
there's
thought.
no question.
I think that's exactly what they thought. Christopher Shannon, 8 teams in the tournament, but the Big 12 basketball is bunk. Anybody telling you that the Big 12 is not a good basketball league it just has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
No idea what they're talking about. Wet blanket. It's a West Coast thing to think you're better than you really are.
I mean, I agree that the Pac-12 suffered from that arrogance on some level, but I'm not so sure that that's what's at play here with San Diego State. I mean, clearly there's a little bit of arrogance happening, but the more he speaks, the more I feel like he just doesn't have a handle on who San Diego State is in the marketplace and in the landscape and what they could potentially do.
To me, I don't paint people with a broad brush like that. I think that's really dumb. I don't think everybody on the West Coast is arrogant or West Coast thing to think you're better than you are. I totally disagree. I think J.D. Wicker's incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would not hire J.D. Wicker to run my Girl Scout selling operation. Like if you want to sell cookies, don't hire J.D. Wicker. You want to join a P4 conference, don't hire J.D. Wicker. I'm not hiring J.D. Wicker to sell anything because he's proven that he cannot.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that everybody on the West Coast thinks they're better than. Come on. Mike Smith, the Lot Lizard Union appreciates the mention, Monty. You're welcome. we're on this show. We're a man of the people, Christopher Shannon, Josh Pate is sponsored by a gas station Quick Trip.
See, and this
Who
is
Josh Pate?
I think Josh.
Am
Pate,
I missing?
Yeah.
Who is Josh Pate?
He's a college football YouTuber on some level or something. I know his name, but I don't really know what he does. Again, the point is that there are always, like you said, going to be people who hate on the Big 12, and that's fine. If that's what you think, that's fine. But what I'm telling you is, again, 8+ teams in the tournament, and you're not that far away from figuring it out in football with the playoffs. So, they're doing good.
Welcome to the nightmare. You jump on the offer to join a P4. Look at SMU not even getting any shares and paying their way to be in a power conference. Come on, San Diego State. SMU gave up $200 million. But what did SMU do? I think, didn't they, the day they joined, they raised $150 million for their collectives?
Yeah.
Christopher Shannon, Gonzaga.
Yeah, waiting for their opportunity.
Mike Smith, Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Exactly. Domer Wop, China's BYD versus America's Tesla, just like the Pac-12 and Big 12. Handwriting's on the wall. Why don't you people see it? I have no idea. I don't know. Noel Ramirez, hello. San Diego is probably like, now we wait for the super conference invite. But I'm serious. They need the ACC to melt down. Because it's the only way that I think it's the only way for a Pac-12 to be reimagined. Because Stanford and Cal would be pivotal in that. And my guess is you could pull SMU. But who else are you going to pull? Are you going to get a Boise State? Are you going to get UNLV would be phenomenal on a West Coast conference. I mean, that's a great athletic department. They're an afterthought in Vegas, but if you're winning championships, people in Vegas will show up. I could see putting that together. The question is, who's going to pay for it?
Right.
And that's the $1 million question. It's why Washington was never on board with more than 50% of their games being streamed. It's tough. Yeah. Stepanek. Monty Show was on the cutting edge of the Pac-12 program. Well, I appreciate that. What a crazy time that was. Holy cow. Christopher Shannon, Peyton Thorne was terrible. 4 interceptions. Don't disagree. Pac-12 is Tesla. Okay. Elon's got some bread. you know. Calford, hello. Cal playing San Diego State this Saturday. How about Cal going to Jordan Hare and winning?
Impressive.
Really impressive. Really, really impressive, in my opinion. Maury Alvarez, hello. He's been a member of the show for 20 months.
Hello, Maury.
San Diego was sipping Ute Kool-Aid they didn't want to see. Well, there's some belief in that. DK for $5. Thoughts on taking Tulane plus 13.5 versus OU? I probably would. OU has not been scintillating, and I thought that Tulane was pretty good.
Yeah, Tulane should cover that. I don't know about winning the game, but they should cover 13.5.
Could make an argument Tulane should have won that game. Calford gifted 5 Monty Show memberships. Thank you, Calford. Appreciate that. Make sure you guys are smashing the like button on the Monty Show because we've had over 1,000 views and we only have 34 likes. Please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. What did Calford say here? Oh, comment dump. I got to go find it. There it is. I won on Prize Picks thanks to Monty.
See, it's not that difficult, dude. We give you the formula.
It's not that difficult.
And then you go and make money. Like,
That's
it's
all
not
you
that
do.
difficult.
Download the Prize Picks app on your phone. America's favorite daily fantasy game is Prize Picks. Tens of millions of users. Join our community, friends. Prize Picks is amazing. It's the best daily fantasy promotion I've ever seen. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more. You can play on $55 an entire season. And it's easy to win on Prize Picks, in my opinion, because you just follow Uncle Monty's formula. You make 3 selections. Like this week in the NFL, last night while I was lying in bed thinking about all of you on the show.
Pause, bro. Pause.
Thank you. I was noticing that, again, Caleb Williams is half a yard in the NFL this week.
I mean, if you're not taking that, I don't know.
Josh Allen on a demon is only 274.5 against Miami, which I love. Tua Tagovailoa is 299.5 against Buffalo. I mean, you look at Jared Goff against Tampa. Like, there's a lot of good picks. And here's what I would do. I would take Caleb Williams for more, then move over to rushing and receiving touchdowns. Tyreek Hill against Buffalo, you're going to take more because he's only half a touchdown. So you're going to take more on that. And then I would encourage you to roll down a little bit, friends. Keep going, a little lower. There is a dude named Alan Lazard. Half a touchdown against Tennessee. Done. Caleb Williams, half a passing yard. Tyreek, a touchdown. Alan Lazard, a touchdown. Flex play that MFer for $5. And you're good to go. That's all you have to do. It is that simple on Prize Picks. Download the app. Use the promo code Monty. In fact, if you're on our YouTube channel right now, hello to everybody that is on Instagram, everybody that is on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Come on over to YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and then give us a like. In the description below, there is a link for Prize Picks. Prize Picks, download the app, use the promo code Monty, get $5, or you deposit $5 in a new account, get $50 more.
Yes.
From Prize Picks. It's amazing. And then hit me up on Twitter or Insta, Snap, Face, TikTok.
Yeah.
And let's talk about picks. My picks this week in the NFL are Caleb Williams on the promo for half a passing yard. You're taking more. Tyreek, the cheetah, half a touchdown rushing or receiving. That means, does he score a touchdown? Yeah. Against Buffalo on Thursday? Yeah, I think he's gonna. And then Alan Lazard. I think Lazard gets a touchdown against Tennessee. That's it. Flex play. You're good to go.